If you like video games, chances are you've heard of the Arkham games, especially Arkham City, which is said by many to be the best superhero game, and one of the greatest games ever made. In this video, I'll give my thoughts on that statement and my concerns so far with it. Arkham City doesn't spend a lot of time starting slow. This is probably why the open world gains so much criticism, as it takes urgency away. So, I decided to follow the main quest. Arkham City's story so far is great. Opening scene is you breaking out of prison after being kidnapped for a certain project, characterizing how strong you are. I also love the general introduction for the motivation of Batman. Joker is dying and passed some of his blood to him when he tricked Batman into thinking he was dead. Batman is okay with both of them dying until he reveals he gave it to all the hospitals. Now that is some good characterization. Not only do you play as Batman, but after saving Catwoman, she has her own story and gameplay, where we then try to find the trajectory of a bullet that missed her. This happens a lot in Arkham. Doors locked, locate the jammers using a signal. Locate the coldest place in Arkham. Nice to have a feeling of not being an A to B objective point, by tracking the general area using a hot or cold system. This doesn't mean objective points aren't present, but of course, it's a balance of making gameplay more enjoyable and making it more immersive. Gliding in Gotham feels pretty nice, along with using your grappling hook, but not as rewarding or freeing like Spider-Man. What I mean to say is it would have helped to add more mechanics to flying, or maybe a timing to the grappling hook. Back to making gameplay more direct, this is also present with the scan function, which helps you find function for tools, which I'll talk about later, and also see where enemies are located. This helps you plan your method of attack, which in my experience is only useful when enemies have guns, alongside with a smoke pellet, which you can use to disappear. If they don't have guns, usually pop out in the middle of enemies, and you'll make it out alive if you can left click to hit and right click to counter, with the occasional need to evade by pressing space twice, which I personally don't like. I feel to get a responsive combat system, you shouldn't implement delays through keybinds. Combat also comes with a combo ability, after a multiplier, to basically take down one enemy, and a final combat scene when knocking out the last enemy, which I personally like. Up to what I've played, Arkham City also features a good boss sequence. Having to use evade is as clunky feeling as ever. Either way, it has more than one sequence mixed with cutscenes, which I think were very well done, and I especially like the lighting here. Though combat is no Spider-Man, it does try later on to switch up some moves in defeating enemies, and a bit of enemies with different movesets to make you change your playstyles, along with some extra mechanics, such as including thermal headsets, being able to see you hanging from atop, heartbeat monitor, which makes enemies go towards the person you knocked out, since this game does allow you to use stealth. This does show me some responsive enemies which I did like, especially when one approach to solving a sequence was to take out all of the guards except one, which allowed you to interrogate him. That was a lie. It's actually the only method, which felt very unnatural to me. Raised his hands right when I knocked out the last guy. Which is why I say the different approaches in engaging combat are possible a lot of the times, unfortunately not in getting to the main objective. Using tools you gain along the way such as explosive glue, an electric gun to open metal doors and use magnetic objects, a bat cloth to pull things, a batarang to activate buttons, just to name a few. These tools of course help you interact with things and progress the story, but God forbid you think you found the way to progress and instead you find a collection trophy. Some of the problems I've encountered is the lack of consistency. I need to save people in this ice area. Instead of breaking a new path, I am asked to cut down a different ramp that I didn't know I could do in the first place. I can't pull and break the ice in the process. Walking over the ice again and again doesn't work either. Wait a minute, if I used scan, I would have found out that I could cut the ramp down. That's a bit disappointing. The only way I could have solved this is by using my Witcher senses, and not going outside of the box. Only this solution is viable. And although obstacles are presented to you in interesting ways, they also come with their own problems. Like when you needed to ask the imprisoned Mr. Freeze for the weapon weakness that was being used against you in exchange for fighting his suit. There is no other way to try to reach Cobblepot. No hard mechanics battle. Another route that could work by thinking outside of the box. The solution is given to you by his own narration. I think it would have been sufficient enough to not have any of the things I suggested, but at least not for you to have to narrate the intro out loud.
The ice blasts are too strong. I should go find Freeze, see if he knows how to defeat his own weapon.
So, those are my impressions of Arkham City. Comment, sub, and like if you enjoyed.